In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. We are going to talk about the Pope. As we've just said, to some people, talking about the Pope is like a rag to a bull. The Pope to English people is anathema. This been built into the genes of the English, the Angles, that the Pope is just the end. I remember, I was brought up in a Catholic school, and this Catholic school was run by the Benedictines, and the Benedictines converted England. But what did we used to do? What did we do? We used to burn effigies of Guy Fawkes. On Guy Fawkes Day, they not only burned the Pope, they burned Guy Fawkes, they also burned the Pope. And just to show you how anti-Catholic English people are, my mother was born into one of these families where they believed in all sorts of things, but her mother told her, there is one thing, my grandmother said to my mother, one thing you must never do, you must never become a Catholic. And she married a Catholic, and as a result, one of her elder brothers, Edward, maybe he's dead now, so I can say, but anyway, Edward didn't speak to her for 21 years. In other words, because if a Protestant marries a Catholic in England, it's like marrying the devil. You know. Now, of course, the things calmed down, and of course, we couldn't care less. We you know, it doesn't, nothing matters really, as long as you're anyway, we won't go into all those kind of problems. But anyway, just to mention, I'll say, no Pope, no Bible. Why? Because the Catholic Church decided what the New Testament was. No Pope, no Westminster, because Westminster means the West Monastery. In other words, no Houses of Parliament. No Pope. We wouldn't have the monarchy, because the monarchy were the Stuart, the Catholic monarchy, and then in 1688 we had the glorious Restoration, and these Protestant Hanovers came over, and they now rule us. God bless them. They're all wonderful people. But anyway, it's all mixed up with the Pope. So now, when people are talking about Brexit, Grexit, mix it, fix it, and all these things, the whole thing is linked to the Pope. If you get the Pope right, in other words, the Pope is the axle of the whole situation. No Pope, the whole of Europe is finished. We just think about it. No, this Father Foreign has gone off his rocker. I'm just telling you, an old guy of 83, no Pope, Europe is finished. That's the long and the short of it. Now, anyway, this is a map. This is the north of Israel. This is the Mediterranean. This is Damascus. This is Mount Hermon. This is Dan. This is Caesarea Philippi. Now, we can remember that in Caesarea Philippi, there was the famous question, you know, because Jesus Christ was a pretty good teacher, and he didn't just spill it all out. He wanted to get this little mind ticking, you know. So he asked his disciples, what do people say I am? Who am I? They say, oh, that's the fun. I'm not asking you, who do you say Jesus Christ? Just by the way, when people say, what is Jesus? You know the old adage, he says, if Jesus said, I am the resurrection, Jesus said, I am the living water, I am the bread which has come down from heaven. Now, if you're talking to someone, he says, I am the resurrection, and another guy says, I am the living water, if you don't eat me, you will have no life. Now, there's only three possibilities there. There's only three. What are the possibilities? Either this guy is mad. Secondly, he's cheating you. He's a phony, or he's God. Because how can I say, if you be a man, that's Jesus. He says, I am the resurrection. Okay. Now, there's only three possibilities. That guy is completely out of his mind. How can he be the resurrection? Or he's a trickster, or he's God. So we have to choose. But if you say, I think Jesus was a good man, then you have to believe that he founded the Catholic Church. Is logical. Because if you say he's a good man, then if he's a good man, then he's not cheating you, and he says, I'm God. So here we are. So he said, on this rock I will build my church. Matthew 16:16. So the whole thing is the rock. In other words, the Pope is here, whether you like it or not. For the last 2,000 years ago, the whole of Europe revolved round Europe. The common market is the Treaty of Rome. All roads lead to Rome. Ubi Petrus, ibi Ecclesia. Where the Pope is, the church is. No Pope, no church. We can say it. If you don't obey the Pope, what happens? I'm not criticizing, but you have the holy jumpers and the holy screamers and the Quakers and the runners, and there's no unity. Only one baptism, one God, one Pope. Okay. Now here we are. We're going on a bit here. Now let's go down a bit. We're going down to this place called Tabqa. Tabqa means the seven springs. So fortunately, perhaps we could say providentially, this area in the north, or maybe the northwest of Galilee, is very much what it was 2,000 years ago. There's hardly, I've been there twice, I think. I took this picture, and I can tell you here, there are no factories. It's more or less what it was the time of Jesus. I don't know whether they had the bananas at the time, but you got all these. It was more or less because this place is fairly rocky. The Church of the Primacy of Peter. Now, anybody, when you call the primacy of Peter, in other words, Peter is the top dog. Now, I think any of us, anybody, looking at the Bible, reading the New Testament, with unprejudiced, objective eyes, would come to the conclusion that Peter was the #1 apostle. And this particular story, that Peter was in charge. Ubi Petrus, ibi Ecclesia. Where Peter is, there is the church. No Peter, chaos. Just by the way, this sign is the sign of the Holy Land, because they say there were 5 crusades, but there were also the 5 wounds of Christ. So you have a wound here, a wound here, a wound here, a wound there. 5 wounds, the wounds of Christ. So that's the sign of the Holy Land. There we have Galilee. This is the Sea of Galilee, okay? And this is the little church which commemorates what? It commemorates, well, we can remember Jesus Christ met the apostles on the shores of Galilee. We'll remember some of them were mending nets, some of them were just fooling around, and he said, "Follow me." And with Peter, he wanted to make a bit of a show so that he'd remember. He got on Peter's boat, and they were going out, and they were on Peter's boat, and Jesus said, "Put your nets down." But Peter, being a kind of down-to-earth kind of fella, he said, "Look, Jesus, we've been fishing all night." And he could have said, "Look, who do you know? You're a landlubber. You don't know what's going on. I've been working my socks off." I don't suppose he had any socks, but anyway. "I've been working all night to fish, and we get nothing. And you are a lamb. You tell me to put the nets down." Okay, but anyway, I can see, Jesus, you're pretty good. Okay, I put the nets down. So he puts the nets down, and lo and behold, there was just, the nets were bursting. And what happened? Peter, not being completely stupid, what he did was a proskinesis. What is a proskinesis? Proskinesis is the Greek word for, I think the Chinese people say, koto, yeah. He just said, well, look, this is God. It's impossible. How could I, all night, I've been out there fishing, and there's absolutely nothing. And this guy, out of the blue, well, actually probably not, but anyway, right, he said, "Put your net down." And I've been a fisherman all my life. It is impossible for suddenly, all night, no fish, and then all the nets completely fish. So he does a proskinesis. In other words, he bows, he says, this was epiphany. This was a visible divine act. It couldn't be anything else. So he was just shaken to the core. And then Jesus said, "Well, don't worry, old chap, I will make you fishers of men." And this is one of the key stories. But anyway, they go back to their own thing. So they go out there, they go fishing. Here we are, you see. They go, this is the boat. So they say, "Okay, let's go fishing." There's a little cat looking at us here, and this is the church where all this happened. You see, this is a nice new church. You've got the sign of the thing. And so Peter and the apostles, they say, "Okay, let's go out onto this beautiful lake." It's about, and then suddenly there was a voice from the bank of, and they said, have you got anything to eat or something? Anyway, John, because we all know that the eyes of love could see, John said, it's Jesus Christ. And Peter, apparently the story goes, he had no clothes on, but he was so overcome, he dives into the Galilee and wades across. And Jesus, what's going on? Jesus being a very practical kind of fellow, that Jesus knows quite well that the business of fishing is not an easy business. They're out on the sea all night, and Jesus isn't just one of these holy Joes that all of you say your prayers and everything will be all right. And somebody says, I know everything will be right, but we haven't had anything to eat all day. What's all this, everything? What are you talking about? So Jesus is very practical. He's had let's have breakfast. A little bite to eat, okay? Very practical, down to earth. He said, okay. And he's got some food there, he's got some bread there, and he's got some fish there, and he said, let's have a bite. So in other words, all very down to earth. In other words, so we'll just let this finish off this little excerpt is what we're trying to show here. Jesus Christ is bringing us to heaven. Our eyes of faith should be piercing the Trinitarian, celestial, empyrean heights. But nature is calling. I am hungry. I want something to eat. And so Jesus said, okay, I understand. Have something to eat. So, in other words, keep your feet on the ground and reach for the stars. Have a good time. God bless.